This video contains spoilers for the original Final Fantasy VII and the base game of Final Fantasy VII Remake. There will also be gameplay spoilers for episode Intermission throughout, though the story spoilers will be saved till the end. If that doesn't bother you, then on with the video. So Final Fantasy VII Remake episode Intermission kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? In March 2021, nearly a year after Remake's original release on the PS4, PlayStation put out a state of play that revealed that the game was not only getting a PS5 upgrade, but also releasing alongside it a story DLC starring Yuffie and its new character Sonon. I think what most people expected was for Remake to be ported over to Xbox and PC. Instead, the upgrade was getting the PlayStation exclusivity treatment again, and this new DLC was also going to be PS5 exclusive. Yup. I think it's pretty well known at this point since it's been very controversial since the announcement, but the new Yuffie DLC is not available to those who own Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 4. If you want to play it, you need to have a PS5, which in this current climate is practically impossible. Now, I believe that just like the main game, the DLC is also going to be a timed exclusive, so there's a chance that it might come to other platforms in the future. But come on, Square. You're really going to neglect your audience that was probably there since day one on the PS4? It's hard to get people excited for this release when most can't even buy the console that it's on. But since I was able to buy a PS5 pretty early on and knew I was going to be able to play this, I was so excited at this announcement. The idea behind this is just genius. Making a DLC that will inevitably tie into part 2 of the remake, starring one of the new party members in that game? I'm all for it. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade plus the Yuffie DLC was slated for release for June 11th. And here we are. Before I go into episode Intermission, which is what the meat of this video is going to be about, I want to briefly talk about the base game and the upgrades that were brought to the table. So the original release of Final Fantasy VII Remake was an amazing looking game. Easily one of the best looking games on the PlayStation 4, but also keep in mind, it was on the PlayStation 4. It can barely run Cyberpunk. You think that Remake was going to come out perfect? The game was filled with low-res textures, the skyboxes were distracting, to say the least, and the lighting during the day looked really unnatural. In Intergrade, that's basically all fixed. I only replayed the first chapter, and they took a game that already looked amazing for the hardware it was on and made it even better. Top it off with the option to play in a consistently smooth 60 FPS. This option, coupled with the faster loading times, make it impossible for me to go back to the PS4 version. This is undoubtedly the best version of the game to play. Now this may be my ears playing tricks on me, but I also noticed a difference in the music playing in the opening movie. I'm not sure if they recorded a newer version of the track, but I swear it doesn't sound the same. Or maybe the PS5 just naturally supports higher quality audio than the PS4. With that out of the way, let's talk about the main attraction, the main thing that I was excited for, Fort Condor. Nah, I'm just kidding, it's episode Intermission. If you really enjoyed the gameplay of the base game and want to get a head start of learning about one of the new characters in the next game, then you should absolutely get this DLC. Your new party members in this DLC are Yuffie and Sonon, though Yuffie is the only one you actually get to control. Yuffie is a ninja, so you'd expect her to be quick and nimble in combat. And boy is she quick and nimble in combat. No getting around it, Yuffie is the best character to play as in the remake series so far. She can attack up close or use her Shoryuken as a long-range option. And that Shoryuken stays stuck to the enemy where you can keep mashing the attack button to do more damage. And if you choose to retrieve it, Yuffie launches herself towards the enemy where you can keep the combo going. This annihilates enemies like you wouldn't believe, and at first glance her combos have next to no cooldown. For a lot of the fights you can honestly keep mashing the attack and throw buttons to keep the pressure on the enemy. And her abilities like Art of War and Windstorm are really great offensive tools. Her ninjutsu ability enchants her weapon with any element you want, meaning that if you know that an enemy is weak to lightning, for example, just use lightning ninjutsu, throw your shuriken, and watch their health go down. And Yuffie's damage output is only made better with Sonon. He's only controlled by the AI, but you can still issue commands to him when he has enough ATB. And when you press the left shoulder button, Yuffie and Sonon can synergize. If you already thought that Yuffie by herself was busted, then you haven't seen anything yet. They have synergized attacks, abilities, and even limit breaks. The gameplay and combat in Intermission is outstanding. I had a blast the whole way through. Yuffie is incredibly fun to use, and I can't wait to use her more in part 2. The rest of the DLC is also really good. There's only 2 chapters, but there's also plenty of side content. Now with the base game, I wasn't that big of a fan of the side content because, frankly, I felt that it was unneeded. But here, it's already an optional DLC, so I feel that I'm a bit more forgiving because of that. There's a condensed version of the Happy Turtle side quest from the original game, a new summon to obtain in the form of Ramu, that was an incredibly fun fight, and of course the main attraction, Fort Condor. What was once an admittedly boring and optional part of the original game has been converted into this cute little board game that's just okay. I mean, I'm incredibly happy that it's here. The way that they reworked Fort Condor is exactly what I expect from the remake team now. But I mean, after 3 or 4 games, it gets kinda monotonous and the charm starts to wear off. Especially in the last few where it gets more difficult and it seems like you can only win if RNG is on your side. But regardless, it's a neat addition and it's an excuse to see some of the characters that didn't get that much attention in the base game. Also, in my first Final Fantasy VII Remake video, which you can catch by clicking the card up top by the way, I forgot to mention characters like Kelsey and Johnny. Kelsey is really just a discount Yuffie, not that big of a fan of her. But Johnny, I don't know how the hell I forgot to talk about him. He was always an odd character in the original, but in the remake, he has more of a presence and he's such a dork. Johnny is hilarious, and I really hope he continues to show up in future games. They gave Yuffie the same level of care and treatment as the other main characters in the base game, giving her the same amount of silliness and energy that any teenager would have, while still having a hint of maturity. Sonon is pretty cool as well. His motivations are clear, he's caring, and his interactions with Yuffie are really great. Unfortunately, these new Avalanche members are pretty one note. They don't really do much in this story. I pretty much equate them to Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge in the original game. Well, I think that about covers everything. Oh no. This box minigame is the pits. I spent over an hour trying to complete it. Knowing when to throw your Shoryuken at boxes or just getting up close to them, knowing when and where to use certain abilities, trying to get Yuffie to attack the right fucking box, come on! All of this under a very strict time limit. But I did it, and I hate myself for it. Let's talk about that story, shall we? So episode Intermission starts in the part in the base game story, starting where Cloud falls through the roof in the Sector 5 church, and ending with the destruction of Sector 7. Apparently during all of that, everyone's favorite ninja Yuffie was in Midgard, sent by the new Wutai government to steal an ultimate materia located somewhere in the Shinra building, with the help of some Avalanche members, and another Wutaian named Sonon, who has a beef with Shinra, specifically Scarlet, after one of their machines killed his sister in the Wutai War many years back. Yuffie and Sonon head into the Shinra building alone to retrieve the ultimate materia. Upon entering the Shinra building, Yuffie and Sonon are led into a trap by Scarlet. After making their way through various trials, they eventually face and defeat Scarlet, who not only confirms that Shinra intends to destroy the Sector 7 slums and blame it on Avalanche and Wutai, but to deal with Yuffie and Sonon, she releases Deep Ground. Yep, they did it. They played the Deep Ground card. So Deep Ground was a big part of the story of Dirge of Cerberus. From what I understand, they're a top secret Shinra experiment, soldiers on crack is the best way to put it, who are led by brothers Weiss and Nero. Their true motivations from Dirge of Cerberus aren't talked about here, so all you really need to know is that Nero likes killing people and he wants to kill Yuffie and Sonon. After an incredible intense boss fight, Yuffie and Sonon plan to make their escape. They've learned that Shinra has not made the ultimate materia yet, and with Deep Ground thrown into the equation, the situation has gotten much too dangerous for them to handle. But on their way out, Sonon gets a bad feeling. He pushes Yuffie to the elevator door and covers her like a shield, and is stabbed by Nero. After not being able to save his sister so many years ago, he's happy that he was at least able to save Yuffie here. Sonon tells Yuffie to leave and get to safety, and in his last moments remembers his sister before eventually succumbing to his wounds. Yuffie runs out of the Shinra building in pain and sadness over the loss of her friend, just in time to see the nightmare the Scarlet told him about. The collapse of the Sector 7 plate, and the deaths of those in that part of the city. Yuffie breaks down to the horror in front of her and gives in to her anguish. Flash forward an unknown amount of time later, and Yuffie is seen riding a chocobo, presumably on her way back to Wutai. Where this road will take her and who it may lead her to, we'll have to wait and see. As a DLC meant to establish one of the main characters we'll see in the next game, episode Intermission is really great. The story is filled with smiles and tears. I'm not sure if they have bigger plans for Weiss and Nero, or if they just included them here as a bit of fan service to the Dirge Cerberus fans out there, and as an excuse to include a new super boss in the form of Weiss. He's hard as fuck, but I beat him. And of course there's the post-credits scene that had me hyperventilating in my seat like a goddamn lunatic. We get like a good 5 minutes of great interactions between the main cast of the base game. Except Friday the 13th, I guess his voice actor was too busy saying fuck.
So shut the fuck up, idiot!
But these scenes are adorable. I love these characters and it's great that I got to see more of them before the next game. And now we basically know that the next game is going to start right at Calm. Just thinking about it gets me all excited. I can imagine Part 2 dedicating its opening hour to the Nibelheim flashback. That would be an outstanding introduction to that game. But wait, there's still more. It's Zack, and yep, looks alive to me. I still very much feel that this scene is evidence that this is an alternate timeline. Just the fact that Zack still has the Buster Sword and Aerith is seemingly nowhere to be seen, I think this is meant to hint that there's going to be real repercussions after we killed the Whispers in the main game. And I can't wait to see what those are. Episode Intermission only solidified my trust in this team. I love that we have stuff to think about, from how the story will play out to whether the next game will be open world. We'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be a painfully long wait, but I have a good feeling that it's going to be worth it. And whenever it comes out, I know I'll be there day one to witness how the unknown journey will continue.